ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्. So in the pointers of the self that we have been seeing, yesterday we saw that where will this self be realized? Though it is all pervasive, it is realized only in the Sattvatmani Dhiguhayam, in the cave of the intellect. And when the mind is filled with Sattva Guna, then the person is able to recognize this self. And just like the sun illumines the whole world by its own light, in the same way, in this space of our heart, the sun of consciousness illumines everything from the unmanifest to the body, each and everything. Now moving ahead, 133. Jnata manoham kriti vikriyanam dehendriya prana krita kriyanam अयोग्निवत्ता ननुवर्तमानः न चेष्टते नो विकरोति किंचना. So it is said Jnata, the knower of what? Mana ahankriti vikriyanam, the modifications that the mind, the ego, they go through, as well as deha, indriya, prana, krita kriyanam, and all the actions that are done by the body, by the senses, and by the prana, krita kriyana. This consciousness is as though the knower. Ayognivattana anuvartamana. Ayognivat anuvartamana. The example given is of the fire and the iron ball. The fire, when the iron ball, iron pieces can be of any size and shape. Some may be round, some may be square, some may be rectangle. When those iron pieces are put, aya is iron piece. When it is put in the fire, fire as though takes the form of that. It will become round, it will become square, it will become rectangle. But really speaking, fire has not become that. Because of the iron ball or the square, it looks like that. In the same way, the self appears to have become the knower because of reflection in the subtle body. But na cheshtate na vikaroti kinchan. The self does not do anything and nor does it modify. So the modifications of the mind as well as the actions at the body level, they don't affect the self. There is only a superimposition of knowership and doership. Really the self is non-doer and is not even the knower. But when it reflects in the mind, this sense of I we get, and then we feel I know, I see, I hear, I am happy, I am sad. All those modifications of the mind are because of this combination, self-reflecting in this matter. In that same way, just like the iron and the fire. Fire has not become round or square, but it appears as though it has become like that because the iron ball is of that shape. So in the same way here, the pure consciousness is that which just enlivens, it doesn't do anything. Why this is important? The self may be not knower, not doer. So what? That self is me. Karta bhav and bhokta bhav, when we have, that is why we suffer. One of the biggest causes of stress is kartritva, the sense of doership, that I am doing it. And the more that ego rises, the more one confines oneself into a shell. More stress one goes through, more anxieties one has, more dependency on the results. One is not able to work properly with a team. There are differences, prejudices, attachments. All this is based on sense of doership, which is psychological sense of doership. Here here Shankaracharya ji says that just like the fire and the iron, what is the relationship between that fire and the iron? The fire has not become of that shape, nor has iron become bright. Iron is still dull only. But because they have come together, it appears as though the fire has taken a shape and iron has become bright. There's only superimposition. If it is left for some time as it is, it will come back to its normal state. So in the same way here, there is only a superimposition of doership on the self because of the reflection. So who is the jnata? The knower is the self reflecting in this equipment. Mana ahankriti. In the subtle body, when this self reflects, then the sense of I arises. So ahankriti. And then the self is also the knower of the modifications of this ahankriti. So ahankar, mana, buddhi and chitta, they all go through constant changes. There is a knower in me which is knowing all the changes. That knower in me is pure consciousness reflecting in the equipment, which we call reflected consciousness, Chidabhas. Like the sun reflecting in the water. The reflection of the sun is not equal to the sun. Sun is separate. Separate in the sense it is unaffected by whatever is happening in the water. In the same way, there is that consciousness which is absolutely unattached, doesn't do anything. The sun reflecting in that pool of water, in that bucket of water, is not doing anything. If the water becomes warm, etc., it is happening by itself. The sun has no doership, no agency in that. Just like even here, the fire appears to have taken a form, but fire has not actually become that. So in that same way, in our antakarana also, when we identify more with the ahankriti, the karta, then there is a doership, enjoyership, anxiety, fear, sorrow, all that. But when I identify myself as a non-doer, that I am not the doer, even when the actions are happening, I am not doing. That non-doership in Vedanta is by identifying with the self which is a non-doer. In bhakti, it is by surrendering the sense of doership by saying Bhagwan is the karta, I am only an instrument, I am not the karta. Either ways, what is important is to surrender that doership. Because when we say surrender the ego, how do we surrender the ego? The ego is surrendered through all these. Surrender the insistence on results, surrender the doership, surrender the likes and dislikes, surrender the feeling of self-importance. When we surrender these, then we are able to realize my nature is pure consciousness. But when we hold on to these, then there is only sorrow and fear. So now, na cheshtate na vikaroti kinchana. Neither the self does any action, nor does it go through any modification. Actions at the BMI level, body and the prana and the senses level, and the modifications of thought at the mind level, subtle body level. Both of them are only illumined by the self. Now, when this subtle body identifies with the gross body, self reflecting in subtle body identifies with the gross body, so then we have the feeling that I am that body. So along with the body identification comes all the modifications of the body also, which we feel I am going through. The next verse clarifies that the modifications don't belong to the self at all. न जायते नो म्रियते न वर्धते न क्षीयते नो विकरोति नित्यः विलीयमानेऽपि वपुष्यमस्मिन् विलीयमानेऽपि वपुष्यमुष्मिन् न लीयते कुम्भ इवाम्बरं स्वयम्. So na jayate, not born, na mriyate, does not die, na vardhate, does not grow, na kshiyate, does not decay, na vikaroti, does not modify. Why? Because nityaha. That which is eternal will not go through these changes, these modifications. And viliyamanepi vapushyam amushmin, vapushya amushmin. Even when the body drops, vapushya means body. Even when the body drops, Vilyamanepi na liyate, it will not cease to exist. How? Kumbha ivambaram swayam. Like the space remains unaffected even when the pot is destroyed. So now let us see what this means. These modifications, birth, death, growth, decay, change, these are modifications of the body. Right now the context is of the body. One can say even for the thought these happen, but right now context is of the body. So birth of the body, death of the body, in between all the changes, they all happen to the equipment, and they are the very nature of that equipment. Before one was born, one was not in this form, some other form. Then that form dropped, and by karmic consequences, one again takes a birth. So then this body is born. What is this body? We saw earlier, gross body is made up of 5 grossified elements. And these 5 grossified elements, they sustain on 5 grossified elements. So the food, the water, the sunlight, the air, all that which we consume, this body grows on that. So jayate, vardhate, it grows, then it starts modifying, it becomes old, it starts decaying, and then one day it dies. So the death is also called Panchatva Mapuhu. Panchatva Mapuhu means the body went back to 5 elements. It was born with 5 elements, sustained by 5 elements, it went back to 5 elements. But who is this I? This I is independent of this. I is aware of the changes of the body. It was a small baby, then it grew, and then it became a teenager, and then a youngster, and then an adult. The changes of the body, the self is aware of. And I am that awareness which is observing all the changes. So it's very interesting. When we think we are the body, we think that we are not in existence before the body, and we will not be in existence after the body. But in between, we are existent, and we are aware of this body and the changes. How is that possible? That awareness which is aware of the changes in the body is not produced with the body. And it will not die with the death of the body. How do we know that? All the changes of the body, this awareness is aware of without going through any change by itself, because the nature of that is nitya. One. Two, if I was not existent before, from where did I come? Consciousness is not something which is produced. It is eternal, time-wise, space-wise, object-wise, all the time present, everywhere. That's why it is infinite. Otherwise, how is it infinite? So, I existed before as a jiva also and as consciousness also. Then I take a form. Then I am going through all the modifications. Then the body will drop. Then according to karma, another form I will take. So the jiva continues this journey from one body to another. But the self is the same in all of them. That's why it is nitya. And it does not die even when the body dies. Then what is the difference between jiva and the self? The jiva goes through all modification, vikaroti. But the self doesn't go through any modification. It observes all the changes. So even before even before the body was born, the self is there, witnessing the entire body, the whole process, everything happening. Through the life it witnesses. Even when the body drops, it will witness the death of the body. It remains untouched, which means our nature is that. This is the Gita and the Upanishads, Kathopanishad and the Bhagavad Gita have a similar verse. Jayate mriyate va vipaschita nayam kutaschinna babhuva kaschita ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even when the body is destroyed, it doesn't get destroyed. Not as a jiva, as the pure consciousness. The jiva keeps taking new bodies according to its own karma, but the Chaitanya Swarup Atma is the same in all of them. It cannot change. Because if that also changes, then who knows the changes? There has to be a changeless entity. And so it is that when we identify with the body, then we feel I am young, I am old, I am born, I am going to die, and all the sorrows associated with that. What does Vedanta say? We are not born with the body, we don't die with the body. Immortality is our inherent nature. And that's one of the reasons why we cannot accept death. Because that's not my nature. My nature is immortality. Those masters who get this detachment with their sadhana, with the grace of the Lord, they drop the body at will. Just like we leave any, like the example given in the Gita is old clothes. When we leave old clothes and we take up new ones, we don't have any regret, sorrow, nothing. We just take. In the same way, the person just drops the body. Tapan Maharaj just dropped the body at will. No attachment at all. Shabari in front of Bhagavan Ram created Yoga Agni out of herself. And she said, my purpose of my life is fulfilled now. I have had your darshan. I was waiting only for that. And nothing more to achieve. And keeping the Lord in her heart, remembering him, she created Yoga Agni and the body dropped. So the identification with the body makes us feel I am this, but we saw earlier, what is this? This is a bundle of flesh, bones, blood, marrow, muscles, all that. And this assemblage I am identifying with. But my true nature is that eternal pure consciousness, which is the absolute self, which doesn't change at all. So the example given here for this is the pot and the space. So the pot appears to have enclosed the space. But when the pot is broken, as though the space inside merges with the space outside. But that's just a concept. It doesn't happen like that. There is space inside the pot, outside the pot, pot exists in the space. Everywhere there is only space. It is not that pot is enclosing a space, because if pot encloses a space, if you take the pot from here to there, this space from here must come there. But it is not like that. The pot is moving in space. So even when the pot is broken, nothing happens to space. Kumbha ivambaram swayam. Space doesn't move anywhere. Space doesn't feel liberated. Space is just there. If the pot goes, the limitation has gone. In the same way, if the body drops, the self is a witness of the body. Nothing happens to the self. More and more one contemplates on this verse. This is about the Sat aspect, pure existence. More and more one contemplates on this verse, the fear of death goes away. That what will happen at the time of death? Body will drop. And Jiva Bhav, if it is there, it will continue, take another body. Bhagwan will take care of the circumstances and provide the right body at the right time. But if Jiva Bhav also is gone, then what happens? Body drops. Jiva Bhava is not there. There is only one pure consciousness, that is, the person has realized while living itself. So the attachment to the body creates all the sorrows, fears associated with the body, and all the thrills and the joys associated with the birth of the body. So birth of the body makes us elated, death of the body makes us feel low. But the fact is that I am neither born nor do I die. I am the witness of birth and death. It's a very powerful verse actually. Because that which is born has to die. There is nobody can prevent that. Many stories are there where the asuras have tried their might to find ways and means by which they don't want to die. So they will create such conditions and think that now the body is there forever and we are immortal. But that which is created has to die, including the creator. So that's the thing. It is not that only it applies to us. Brahmaji, his lifespan also is 100 years. And after that, dissolution happens. Brahmaji also gone. What remains? Pure consciousness. Brahman. Then again another Brahmaji comes. And then again another Srishti comes. So right from the creator till the end, till everything in this creation, whatever is born will die. But that which is unborn alone is undying. The pot space is not born with the birth of the pot, and the pot space doesn't get liberated with the death of the pot. Space remains the same. So the pot is born, pot dies. Space is not born with that, nor is space limited by it while it is there, nor the space is liberated when the pot is broken. Now we have to meditate. This analogy is a very beautiful analogy for meditation. In one's meditation, contemplation, one can sit quietly and imagine this body to be the pot. Just like a pot gets created in space, this body also got created in this pure consciousness. And this pot exists as though covering consciousness, the space, but it cannot limit space at all. Same way, inside us is consciousness, around us is consciousness. This body also, in fact, is made up of consciousness alone. And when this body drops, imagine the pot breaking and imagine this body. When this body drops, I will be a witness even of that. One great master told that to Alexander, it seems. Alexander, it apparently was told that when he comes to India, I mean, he was attacking India. So his master told him that bring three things from India. Bring Tulsi, bring Ganges water, and bring one realized man. Tulsi and Ganges water he got very easily. Where to find a realized man? So he made enquiries and they found out, such and such person here is a realized person. So he sent his messengers saying, you tell him Alexander is calling you. They went to him. He said, I don't want to come. I am not interested in anything. I am happy here where I am. They said, you don't know who is he. He is the emperor of this, half the world he has conquered. He is calling you, come. He said, I don't want to meet him. So the messengers went. And Alexander was very furious. So he came. And he told him, he tried to tell him, I will give you this, I will give you that. Nothing. He was not tempted at all. He said, I want to just be here. He says, anything that you desire, please tell me and I will give you. He didn't want anything. Alexander got very upset and he says, capture him and let him take him. They put him in the jail. Again, after a few days, Alexander went and he told him, come with me back to my place. I'll give you everything. You will be in luxury. He didn't want anything. Alexander was not able to handle it, that here is somebody who wants nothing from him. Finally, the man said, if you want anything, if you want to give me anything, just do one simple favor. Right now you are blocking the sunlight. Just move. Alexander got so upset. So it is said that he took out his sword and he says, I will kill you. Right here, I will chop off your head. And the reply that the Mahatma gave, he said that even as you see my body falling, I will also see this body falling. Alexander could not believe. He has not met somebody like that till now. That who has no fear of death. And upon that he is saying that even as you see the body falling, I will also see the body falling. Meaning, I am not this body at all. True fearlessness comes from that. The more one meditates on this analogy, the pot is broken. One of the Vedantic significances of this ritual, when a person is cremated, one of the rituals that is done is a pot of water is taken and it has a hole and the water falls and this person it goes around the dead body and after that the person breaks it. Meaning two things. All my attachments with you, I let go of that. You please carry on your journey ahead. And second, with the breaking of the pot, the self does not die. With the death of the body, the self does not die. There is an indestructible presence in each individual. So to recognize that is very important. What is that in me which observes, just like we observe the birth of a thought, the growth of a thought, the death of a thought, I am the witness. In the same way it happens with the body. Same thing happens with the prana, with the senses. The witnesses each and everything. When it is said that it is a witness of the actions of the body, the prana, the senses, the mind, meaning it observes the rise, the stay, and the decay. This whole cycle, it keeps on observing, remaining unaffected. Viliyamanepi vapusyamushmin naliyate kumbhaivambaram swayam. Now, moving ahead. Prakriti Vikriti Bhinnaha Shuddha Bodha Svabhavaha Sadasadidam Ashesham Bhasayan Nirvisheshaha Vilasati Paramatma Jagradadishvavastha Swahamaham Sakshat Sakshi Rupena Buddhehe. This is summarizing now. Prakriti, Vikriti, Bhinna. All the modifications of Prakriti. The self is Shuddha Bodha Svabhava, is different from all the modifications of the Prakriti, right from the unmanifest vasanas till the gross body and the world outside and the results. All the modifications, the self is different from them. What is the nature of that self? Shuddha Bodha Svabhava, pure illumination alone. Sad Asad Idam Ashesham. See here, Sad and Asat here does not mean real and unreal. Sat here means the gross world, Asat here means the subtle world. Sad, Asad, Idam, Ashesham. The entire gross world, whatever we see outside, including this body, and the entire subtle world of thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, ideals, values, both of them, Sad, Asad, Idam, Ashesham, nothing left out. Everything in this creation, gross and subtle, Bhasayan, it only illumines Nirvishesha, without any distinction, without any partiality. Or equally, basically it means it just illumines everything equally, Nirvishesha. Vilasati, this shines on its own. And what is it? It is Paramatma. It is not that small one little Atma I have. No, it is that Paramatma only. But in one equipment, shining as the witness of all the modifications that is happening. Jagradadishu avastha. In the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. So the Sandhi here is Jagradadishu avasthasu. And then next line is Aham Aham iti Sakshat Sakshi Rupena Buddhehe. So this pure consciousness is the Paramatma which shines in all the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, as what? Aham Aham iti. As pure I. This feeling constantly in our heart that I am. So I am, and I am aware that I am, and the nature of that awareness being infinite is bliss. So Sat Chit Anand. So this aham constantly is there in our heart. Sakshat, Sakshi Rupena Buddhi, and it is manifests itself as the witness of the intellect. So heart, aham, and in the Buddhi as the witness, and Bhasya Nirvishesha, the activities of the body, the modifications in the world outside, everything is illumined by this pure consciousness. So now these are the 10 verses which are about the pointer, which are pointers of the self, this pure consciousness. So the answer to what is Atma is indicated by these 10 verses. What is Anatma was spoken earlier, what is Atma is spoken. Now, before going on to the next topic, this one shloka is an advice to live in self-control, because the nature of the self is very subtle. Even if we say it is the witness, it is all pervasive, it is not the karta, it doesn't die with the death of the body, birth of the body, doesn't get born. Those are words. The mental identification is still with the body, with the jiva bhava. So unless a person doesn't prepare oneself and live in discipline, self-control, this will not happen. The realization will not happen. So the next verse is the advice for that self-control. That who realizes this self? Where it was realized, where it will be realized, we already saw. In the mind which is filled with sattva guna, in the cave of the intellect, one will realize. That is further elaborated with this. That how does one live? One has to live in self-control. What are those conditions required? So again, no meter for this verse. Niyamita manasa mumtvam swam atmanam atmani ayamahamiti sakshad vidhi buddhi prasadat jani marana taranga para samsara sindhum pratara bhava kritartho brahma rupena samsthaha. The last two lines have a meter, the first two lines don't have. Okay. So niyamita manasamum tvam, with a regulated mind, swamatmanam atmani, realize yourself while you are in this body. Vidhi is the verb. Tvam vidhi, you realize the self while living in the body. See the word swam atmanam, you realize yourself. Atmani, so there the word atmani is in the body, meaning while living in the body with your efforts, you realize the self by a mind which is controlled. Niyamita manasamum. And while you are living in the body, is the self to be realized somewhere outside? Is it an object to be attained? He says, no, no, no. It is in your own heart. Aham, aham iti sakshad buddhi prasadat. It is there in your own intellect, constantly shining as I, aham, aham, aham. But how will you realize it? Two words are given, niyamita manasa and buddhi prasada. Now, niyamita manasa means what? Emotions must not be turbulent, that the mind keeps on swinging. Self-control is not just control of the senses. One meaning of self-control is definitely control of the senses. So one generally thinks that if I don't see harmful things, hear harmful things, eat things which are not conducive, and that is self-control, which is one level, no doubt. But control of the speech also is self-control. Control of the mind also is self-control. That the emotions don't overwhelm us. We don't get carried away by the flow of emotions and become impulsive, become restless. That is niyamita manasa. The mind has to be controlled. And buddhi prasada. The buddhi must have clear knowledge. Not wrong knowledge or confusion or delusion, false identification, excessive ambition. This will all make the buddhi extrovert. Buddhi prasada means that ability of the buddhi to turn within. And that buddhi prasada will happen when the niyamita manasa happens. If emotions are very powerful, where we are getting swayed by them, buddhi prasada will not happen. With the buddhi, we are not able to control the emotions. So first thing is to control the emotions, purify the emotion, that's a better word. Purify the emotions, and also align the whole personality. The senses controlled by the mind, mind controlled by the intellect, that is called self-control. Because this is the order of subtlety. The subtler should always control the gross, not the other way. So niyamita manasa and buddhi prasada, these are two words. So have clarity of thinking and purity of the feeling. Then what will happen? So this first two lines are the sadhana process. And the next two lines are the result of this sadhana. Jani marana taranga apara samsara sindhu. This ocean which is difficult to cross, impossible to cross actually, apara. And in this ocean, what are the waves? Jani marana taranga. Birth, growth, decay, death, These are all the waves that are continuously rising in this ocean. Pratara bhava, you cross over. Kritartha, be grateful, be blessed. Brahma rupena samstaha, be firmly established in Brahman, which is your nature. Meaning, if I do the first two lines, what is given there, then I will cross over this ocean of samsara and be established in Brahman. Meaning, samsara here is change, constant modification. One will go beyond that identification and establish oneself truly as Brahman, that I am that pure consciousness which pervades the whole universe. So now the sadhana process is the first two lines. So niyamita manasamum, the body must be, the mind must be regulated, controlled, purified. Sadhana process is mainly for that. Because one generally has a false notion that if I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, why should I care about them? So one becomes indulgent, or one becomes lethargic, one careless, indifferent. To the body also, to the mind also, slowly one falls into tamoguna. Gurudev used to give a very nice example that we have to use the ladder to go beyond the ladder. For that, the ladder must be in good condition. If the ladder is not in the good condition, we will remain on the ground level only. Same way, the body, mind, intellect are equipments which are to be used to transcend the BMI identification. That's why it says, Swatmanam Atmani. Realize yourself while living in this body. So take care of the body. Do whatever needs to be done to maintain it well for sadhana. Same way, ensure that the mind remains in positive state. It is filled with devotion for the Lord or for the Sadguru. And that mind does not get overwhelmed with negative emotions or even positive ones, excitement or depression, equanimity. So niyamita manasa, if the mind is equanimous, Gurudev used to say that when the mind is calm, the intellect is sharp. And that is what is required in Vedanta. Arjun's mind got very disturbed, so his thinking got eclipsed. He forgot what is his duty. When his mind became quiet, he regained his clarity. Nashto moha smritir labdha. So we require the mind to be quiet. Quiet mind doesn't mean a blank mind. It only means that the mind does not have conflict. It is not filled with negative emotions. It is not impulsive. It is more and more enthusiastic to put efforts to realize the self. Able to turn within. Is not extroverted, pushed by desires. So buddhi prasada means that. That desires are not gurgling in the buddhi, and niyamita manasa means emotions are not turbulent. If the desires are too many, ambition is a lot, and one wants to achieve this, that, go here, go there, do this, do that, become this, become that, extrovertedness will happen. Buddhi prasada means both. Desire should not be troubling me to be so extroverted. Whatever basic work I have to do, let me do that. Maintain this body, take care of the family, whatever is my duty. Rest of the time spend in thinking, study, gaining clarity, reflection. That buddhi prasada happens. So niyamita manasa and buddhi prasada. Then what will happen? Swam atmanam atmani. With our own effort, we will be able to realize while living in this body. This is one of the unique things of Vedanta. Vedanta does not say that liberation is a posthumous reward, that after you die you will get liberated. While living here, Atmani. And how will you realize it? Hold on to this sense of I. Ramana Maharshi also used to advocate this very important method. Beautiful line he used to say, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Ahamiti Sakshad Atma Rupena Bhati Hridivisha Manasa Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodhat. These four methods he gives. Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodhat. There is one more, which is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So Hridaya Guhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. In the cave of your heart, there is only that pure Brahman. And how is it experienced by us? Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. So those who say that you have not known God, whether God exists or not, why are you believing the scripture? They are not understanding because they have not studied properly. Nobody is saying about God somewhere out there. Aham aham, it is there right now. It is our experience. It is an immediate experience in us. Aham aham iti sakshat vidhi. Sakshat means immediate. Every other knowledge is with a medium. And only when the mind is there, other knowledge is available. But this aham aham aham, mind is not required for it. And how can one say that we have not experienced God? It is right now here in our heart. We are not searching some God out there. And there are people who discourage others to even study the scripture, saying that they are talking about things which are not even confirmed to exist. And if you study them, your desire for them also will go away. If you study, your desire for God will go away. But if you don't study, then there will be a hunger inside you. What delusion is this? When we study only, we come to understand where are we going wrong in our thinking. We are not searching something which is not perceptible, some imagination. Yes, it is beyond senses, but it is beyond the mind, it is beyond intellect. But where is it? It is in my heart. Aham, aham. Every moment I am experiencing it. Just because my mind is extroverted, I am not able to completely identify with that. But it is that which is making my mind, body, senses, everything function. It exists even when the body is not there. It will exist even when the thoughts are not there. In the deep sleep, it is there even when I am not aware of the equipment. So it is sakshat, immediate. And it is an unbroken presence. Two times it is said, aham ahamiti, ayam ahamiti, sorry. Ayam aham, this is that. In Ramana Maharshi's thing, he says, aham ahamiti sakshat. Twice he says, aham aham. Atma rupena bhati. So one should be very careful when we listen to somebody speaking. What is their basis? Is that thought even valid? It appears to us it is very valid. Logically it appears. But if one has thought through properly, one has understood Vedanta properly, one will know where one is going wrong and what thought is the right thought. Long back, I was reading J. Krishnamurti. Before I got proper clarity in Vedanta, I was reading J. Krishnamurti, exploring different philosophers. So there was this book called On God. Does God exist? Sorry, not on God. Does God exist? So took the book, started reading. The very first chapter he says that God is an imagination of human mind. God is created by human mind. Because human mind feels inadequate and wants to hold on to something, so he has created God. How can you seek something that you don't know? So the whole pursuit of God is a vain pursuit. Completely confused I got. He said, what is this? Because one is trying to seek that God, walk this path. And suddenly now you're coming across this, here there is an imagination and all kinds of things. I closed the book and I started thinking, then studied Vedanta properly. And in Vedanta course, one thing was very important, very clearly told to us. For 2 years, Stick to Vedanta. Stick to the books of Gurudev. Don't try to read other books. Once you get clarity, then you read, then you know the standpoints. So this self is not something which is an imagination. It is experienced here and now, and it is an immediate experience of us. Everything else we experience is only with the medium. Only when the body is there, I can experience waking state. Only with the mind, I can experience dream state. Waking and dream are possible only because of the existence of the body and the mind. And because my attention is on the body and the mind, I don't even recognize the presence of the self, which is enlivening the body and the mind. But the deep sleep state is experienced even without the presence of the body and the mind. I am. When the attention in contemplation is withdrawn from the body, mind, pranas, everything, very clearly one experiences aham, pure consciousness. Aham, sakshat vidhi, immediately know it. Just like in the commentary, Gurudev has given the example that just like in a dark room, one may require torch to see everything else. But to know that I exist, one doesn't require any torch, any light. That's an immediate experience that I am. In that same way. So, first two lines are the sadhana. Let the mind be controlled. Let the intellect turn within and hold on to this feeling of aham, pure I, not the small I. And know that that is your own true self. When I hold on to that, then what I will do, what will happen to me? The result is this ocean which is impossible to cross, which has all the waves of birth and death and all the modifications, meaning constant change, that entire realm of change, I will cross over and feel grateful that I've been able to cross over, be established as Brahman. So this is the advice. How to realize the self, what will be the result of this contemplation. Now the next question is, what is bondage? Ko nama bandha, remember it was asked. Ko nama bandha, kathamesha agata, from where did it come? So that we will take up in our sessions in February. For now we will stop here, and any questions you are welcome to ask.
Yeah, Swamiji, I have a very practical question. This is the last verse. Hello, Hari Om, Swamiji.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so the last verse is talking about self-control, and we have been doing this through the Vedanta class. But when it practically comes to control your mind when there is a situation, it seems like your mind is in a revenge, and it really wants to do what it wants to do, and it gets against everything. So at that point of time, what can we do?
At that point of time, the mind can only be prevented from doing anything wrong. At that point of time, we cannot change its pattern immediately. When impulse and emotions are very strong, at that point in time, only it has to be given a support which it can hold on to so that it doesn't cross boundaries and doesn't do anything which harms itself and others. And which is why some practice one should have done before. In the Gita, Bhagavan told us in the 6th chapter, Abhyasa and Vairagya. So
Yes.
when the mind is having impulsiveness, Abhyasa, if it has done earlier of some mantra japa, breath observation, pranayam, any such practice, at that time, only that can be brought back to the mind and the mind can be held back. Don't expect the mind that it will not have impulsiveness, turbulence, it should immediately go away. That is not going to happen. It will happen over a period of time because the vasana pressure has to be reduced for that. Which is why that selfless service, devotion, surrender to the Lord, prasada buddhi, all that is attitudinal change. The vairagya aspect, that is attitudinal change, which I have to do, which if I have not done in my life, just by trying to control the mind through some technique is only a temporary solution. At that moment, I can apply that. At that moment, I can say that, I can start chanting the mantra, but the mind will still rebel, but still I hold on to the mantra and prevent it. So it can be anything like that. Mantra, it can be the breathing, it can be a positive auto-suggestion, it can be anything else, which one has trained oneself with. Consciously, when one has trained oneself with in single pointedness, where the mind wanders, one brings it back, which invokes love in one's own heart, which gives the mind certain clarity and certain purity. That support system is what will come to my rescue at that moment. And once that support system is used and mind has become relatively quiet, then I have to invoke Vairagya. I have to think about it. What is that which made me so impulsive? What is that attachment in me? What is that insistence in me? How can I let go of that? How can I learn to accept certain things which I am not accepting? And what is that psychological insistence in me which is making me so disturbed? I have to start introspecting once the mind has become quiet and take steps to undo that. Then the next time the impact will be still lesser. And over a period of time, it will stop becoming impulsive. So it's a process like that.
But Swamiji, in one of your lectures itself, you had said that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa once, when before meditation, used to say that keep the rasagullas here, before if the temptation comes in, let me have it. So like that, when you.
No. That example was not given for that. Rasgulla was kept by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. His state is so different than ours. He hears the word Kali and goes into absorption. His mind doesn't come down to body level for days together. And there are disciples and all of them who are sitting there. Sometimes he has to give knowledge. His mind refuses to come down to body level. So he told the disciple that keep the rasgulla ready, so that when the body eats that rasgulla, the mind's attention will come onto the body.
Okay.
Then the body can be taken care of and the knowledge can be given also. His example is different. It's not that temptation is there, let me fall for it. Hare Ramakrishna Paramahamsa state is so high. It is
Yeah.
that.
Okay, Hari Om, thank you. Thank you, Swamiji, Hari Om.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Namaha. Hari Om.